Okay, so by now I made videos on Phoenix 1 through 4, which are actually 5 books because Freedom Bound, don't forget that. Now I will cover this Phoenix himself. Um, this There will be some spoilers in this, so be advised. And I might do a video covering spoilers for the book series itself. That'll be later in the future. Of the several abilities that the Phoenix um, has, besides of course being the god of fire, that's an obvious one. But the abilities that I have shown and the abilities that I actually have not really disclosed but are possible. What I have shown so far is, of course, he can use fire. He can basically flame on like a human torch. But, but, because throughout the series, he mostly just flames on. That's pretty much it. I mean, through most of the series. But there's, like, gotta remember though, I mean, the whole series is about him discovering himself, him coming to power, him basically figuring out what his powers are. And most of the time, he keeps on getting thrown these curveballs where he forgets completely who he is. So that that really sets him back. But what I have shown his abilities to be, though, is that um, one really good one is that he can travel through fire, basically any kind of fire, like whether it be like a little flame, anything. Um, but he has to turn into fire in order to transfer through fire. So there's one point where I show him um, going through stars. But mind you, that the further he has to travel, the more power he needs in order to travel. So yeah, he can travel through just a little flame, but it's not that far. Like he cannot, he can only travel as far as say how much energy strength he has. So if he does not have that much strength and energy, that little flame travel, it's not gonna work. Like say if somebody lights a lighter, um, um, he can travel like several hundred feet, but he has to have the energy to be able to do that. Otherwise, the fire has to be significant. Say that there's a big old house fire or whatever, like the house is completely engulfed with flames, or the building is. Like he can definitely work with that. Like he can be like he'd have to be able to sense the fire. You get me? You'd be able to sense the fire in order to be able to travel into it. Or he can do say he can say somebody in the same building as him is 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 lighting a lighter, and then some somebody next to them is having like a little fireplace fire or whatever. He can travel between those fires and get to that house fire. That house fire, that building fire, can re-energize him and he can do what he can do. Like he can completely absorb the fire, which is another thing. Obviously, if he can create fire, he can absorb it too. So obviously, he can get to the fire and he can completely suck it into himself because, I mean, he is the god of fire, so that is his ability. He can suck it back into him, so he can absorb the fire. He can absorb that energy. So Another one is that he can, a cool one that I show, and this is in Phoenix 4. This is an awesome one. He can, um, he has enough energy or just pissed off enough. He can duplicate himself and just, um, yeah, he can duplicate himself. To, but his the original one can control all the duplicates, meaning that he can fight multiple enemies at once. But like his central part has to be protected somewhere, so that way, like, I mean, the rule of thumb, I mean, you take out the central, you take them all out. I mean, it's obvious. Um, he he can. This is one that I haven't really tapped into, but I mean, it also goes into the like the whole fire thing. I mean, everyone has natural body heat, and so I mean, even though it's not fire, it's still heat, right? Like thermal heat. So the Phoenix can manipulate that. Like he can turn the person's body temperature up or completely suck it out of them. He can suck out the energy. Um, I have not displayed this, however, but it is possible because again, um, heat is energy, and he can absorb that. Oh yeah, he can excite his body. Um, what he does is um, like because Gabriel is human, Phoenix still has a human form. Gabriel can excite his cells, can like if he needs to heal because he does not have a healing ability, mind you. I mean, I know I display him like surviving a lot, but he actually cannot heal himself. All he can really do is he can trigger a higher level of healing, but because of everything he's went through the Phoenix series, he can heal much faster than the normal human. Um, like at the end of Phoenix One, he is mutated, and there are several other times in the series where his body gets basically a power up advantage to where like he heals much faster than the average human. Um, so like he's up to basically the super mutant level, maybe a little bit higher, but because he can excite his body, like I said, he's a little bit higher because he can excite his cells to the point where he can heal himself. I mean, it's not really that easy for him to do because like he'll be in the middle of battle and he'll go all like Phoenix size, be able to yeah. But yeah, so he can do that. Um, oh, he can control fire around him. So I mean, like he can psychically command a fire to like glow or extinguish or whatever. He can talk to the fire too, kind of like a convice. Um, basically, same difference with the teleportation. He can talk through um, he can talk through flames. Yes, it's going to go a little longer because I'm talking about it a good one. There is a moment where I have him, I have him travel through the stars. I did cover this already. Travel through flame, so he can cross vast distances in outer space. Because I mean, he is a fire, but he has to have enough. Um, he has to have enough stars to fuel himself, and I do show this in one of the books. I think it's Phoenix 4, I believe. I believe it's Phoenix 4. I do show this in action where he teleports uh, through through stars and suns. Um, However, I do not show it destabilizing anything. I don't. No, I didn't show that. Um, there, he can time travel himself, but it is very freaking difficult and unpredictable. Like, he cannot go to a he cannot go to a specific period that he wants to, because in order to do that, he has to think. Well, he would have to think of it, but I mean, it's not really that predictable. Like, um, this did happen already, and he ended up in ancient times, Phoenix 3. Um, but that's really the only time I should. Well, there is one other time that I show him time traveling, but he did more than just time travel, and that wasn't his deciding either. So you see, like, he can time travel, but it's not something that he can control. Like, he cannot control, like a solar flare. You've seen in if you've ever seen Stargate, um, Stargate SG-1, actually all of them, Stargate SG-1, Stargate Atlantis, and Stargate Universe. All of them, they time traveled, but they had no no control over it because it was a solar flare each time that it happened. Each time it happened, it was a solar flare, and they just randomly jumped. Um, was it that case in these times? No, it was both times it was something completely different. But anyway, I believe that I covered um, all all of his abilities that I have shown. But yeah, he does have quite a few capabilities. So he can, to recap, he can duplicate himself. He can travel through fire. He can communicate through fire. He can manipulate the energy within it. Um, um, fuck. I spent so much time talking, like, describing his abilities. I don't really remember what I said personally. But yeah, he can. There's a lot he can do. Um, but yeah, so um, teleport through fire, communicate through fire, manipulate the energy. Um, oh yeah, heal himself, time travel. Time, it's unpredictable, but he can do it. Duplicate himself. I don't believe I really showed anything else. So that's six abilities that I've pretty much covered. Um, he can send out fire blast. He can send out chocolates. Oh yeah. Almost forgot. I do show this happening. Um, as long as he can, people around him, when he fires a blast, and uh, this goes for some other books too that I reveal happening. When he fires, like, say, a heat wave out, um, he has to concentrate to do this, but he can focusing out so his allies don't get vaporized in the process. As long as he knows, he can focus on their heat signatures, and when he releases a heat wave, it will not affect his allies. So that's a very important note because, like, I mean, like, you don't want to kill your people. Come on. You know? So, that's a very important ability, too. But, yeah, that's pretty much it. So I think it's 7 abilities altogether. I cannot recollect anymore. So, but yeah. So that's his abilities in a nutshell. Which most of them I do show. I think the temperature one I did not reveal, but however everything else I have shown already, and the the duplicating one is, oh yeah, and obviously he can power things up. He powered a time traveling device with it. That was actually the only time he was able to control where he time traveled, by the way, is with the actual time travel device. It was a device that he he made a couple devices that enabled the user to use their abilities to power the time travel device. So that was the only time that he was actually able to control where he went, was was using that. But that doesn't really count because, I mean, he punched in the numbers. So I mean, I'm just talking about like without a device, time traveling. That's what I'm talking about. So, but yeah, uh, as I was saying though, the part that I mentioned where he can duplicate himself, it was a scene in Phoenix 4 somewhere. I'll let you discover that, where he had to stop a floating city from falling on on a population or whatever, and he was the last fighter that had any energy left in him, any power left in him, and his power was basically depleted, and he had to rely on like basically a, a forced second wind, and he duplicated himself like a couple hundred times, turned into a freaking fiery phoenix bird, um, and basically just threw himself at the city and like basically stopped the thing in its tracks, but he himself almost died in the process. So that part is a really good part to get to. So make sure you get to that when you read through the series. That's a really good part. But yeah, so that concludes this episode. I'm sorry it was so long. There was a lot to get into it, and I want to recap, and I had to remind myself of the abilities too. So, but yeah, really good reads. Definitely really good reads. And fun fact about the human race in the series is that they are about, I think I mentioned 7 feet tall. They have I think I mentioned that they have like 10, like, no, they have like, crap. Oh yeah, uh, 6 fingers. They have 6 fingers on each hand, so 12 fingers, 12 toes. Um, spiky ears, big long ears, and yeah, and there are a couple different races in there. So yeah, that's an interesting part about their genealogy. And as far as like year they come from, um, they are from the year 4000, which is in our past, not our future, but in our past. So you'll learn all about that. So thank you for watching. Always support your local authors. Check out my blog, etc. Goodbye.